Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on News Talk, KGVO. Well, first things first, a happy Mother's Day weekend. All the moms out there, and we got a mama in the studio today that I'm so happy to see because it's been quite a while. On Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Beckie Peterson with Windermere Real Estate. Hi.
Hello, Denny. So nice to see you again.
Likewise. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we got to jump right in. We got a lot to cover today, and you know what I'm going to ask first is about prices. And has this whole uptick, first off, share some numbers with us somewhere in the course of your answer, but has this uptick surprised even a veteran real estate agent like yourself?
Absolutely. I think all of us every day in the industry are shocked. We have our meetings at Windermere on Tuesdays where all of us gather and just kind of talk about different things. And,
sure.
And every Tuesday is, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this happened like this. We're all learning every single day. I mean, you have agents and brokers that I always gauge them by their license number. So I'll say a low thousands number or, even in the 765. And I'm like, okay, they've been doing it a long time. And you look at them and even they're going, I just can't believe this. And I think I've seen more changes to our forms that we use to write buy, sells, and listings. Okay. So I think there's been more changes to those forms just based on the different ways people are buying real estate today than what we've seen in the past. For instance, at the end of our now, I think, 12, 13-page buy-sell agreement is buyer has or has not seen the property in person. And that's due to the number of sight unseen offers because people are looking and maybe they're living in Washington or Idaho or somewhere all over the country, but they're trying to buy, but they can't get over here to see it fast enough. Some of them have no intentions of seeing it, and they want to buy it. And so that's there because it really does make a decision or is at least a factor for a decision. I don't want to say it makes it.
Right.
It's a factor in a multiple offer situation that a seller is going to be looking at and be advised by their listing agent as to looking how strong that offer is and what could or couldn't come of that if they haven't seen it. And then there's a whole disclosure with that. I think there's another either form or opportunity that may be coming out in regards to what we can and can't do in disclosing offers as you start getting people wanting to write an escalation clause, which is, I will offer this for your home, and then I'm willing to pay X number, $1,000, $5,000 over the next, best offer. And if they do that, well, it comes in with it, and we put that together. But when you do that, how do you know what the best offer is? Well, in Montana, you can't. It is against our professional standards, which can get us in a ton of trouble if you disclose a buyer's name or any terms of their buy-sell agreement of which they've presented for somebody else without their written consent. Mm-hmm. And so we can't disclose those. We do have to, when called by a buyer's agent and they say, do you have other offers? We are obligated to say, yes, we have, one or three or whatever. That you must do. And we must disclose if we are in a dual agency or anything like that when asked. But we cannot, say, okay, Mr. Buyer, you've been awarded, we've signed your contract, and with it, we've included the addendum to say that we have, in fact, put in your escalation clause, and thus you have gotten it at this cost or this price. Right. And it's, I discourage them. There's times when it's just the only way that they feel they can get there. So we're real careful. But usually it's kind of best, I say, just put your best foot forward and where you feel is your best place. Because there's a few things that can come back in that. There's always the pros and cons. Yeah. If you put that in there, legally, could they just counter you? Yes, they could just counter you at that figure if they wanted to. But of course, then you have the option to say, you countered me at it, but I don't want, there's just, it's different. It's very, it's just a different market when you see that, when you're going into situations. So yeah, the prices increasing at the rate that they are is unprecedented.
Yeah.
It's difficult. There's been times I've put together a listing agreement for a client getting ready to list their home. And, sometimes for some people, it's a long process. Some people, it's just a couple weeks. But even then, even in 2 weeks, or if it's been a month, I think we took about 6 weeks to kind of just get everything to ready and to go and everything else. And by the time we got there, the day before we decided to actually sign the listing agreement, I said, I'm just going to check the market. And what I looked for was, had anything closed in those few weeks time frame that would adjust our asking price? Had anything just gone under contract that I could call the other listing agent and just say, did you get multiple offers? How many offers did you get that was on a house that's, pardon me, just 2 blocks away? And then how many are on the market right now that are not under contract? And in doing that, I actually called my client back and said, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think we're low. I think we need to bump it by, about 30,000, which is huge. And they're like, okay, and we do that. And multiple offers. I think we had like 8 offers, and it still went for well beyond that. And it doesn't make, it's crazy. It just really is.
I guess that kind of lends itself to the question I wanted to ask you. And in one way you answered about the whole questionable escalation clause thing, but you are seeing, and I jotted down bidding war because I couldn't think of a more tactful term, but to your point, the listed price is seldom the price that the seller gets anymore, is it? Because of, okay, you're asking $350, we would like to offer $400. You see so much of that, and that's got to be a discouraging thing for other people who are, you've got to be seeing that a lot, and I just don't know what it is I would tell those other prospective buyers other than talk to a trained professional like Beckie Peterson over at Windermere Real Estate.
Yes, I would say a majority, but definitely not all. A great number of properties are getting a multiple offer.
Right.
So another word for bidding war is multiple offers coming in at the same time that you're going to be competing against.
Yeah.
And so it starts with the property's been listed properly. In other words, they didn't say, well, if everyone's getting bidding wars and you're telling me the house is worth $450, let's list it at $6 and see. Well, that's not going to work. You will sit there. I mean, people aren't, if they're using a buyer's agent, that buyer's agent is doing their homework and they can see what else is around. But if it's listed correctly and you've cleaned it up, it's clean, it's been taken care of, and it's priced, the biggest thing, priced properly for the market. Yeah. And the or I would say the frustrating part for some buyers right now is normally, they might call up and say, hey, Becky, I'd really like to look for a house. Would you help me? And, we spend time, I call it an interview. We sit down and just really talk about where they're at, where they want to go, everything else, and then get to the final thing. Okay, have we been pre-approved? And what's, so we know that the financial picture is right. And let's say the financial picture came down to say, okay, we are ready, prepared financially, and pre-approved for $350,000 purchase price, and then, their loan terms. And in the past, we say, okay, let's put in a search, and we'll search anywhere, a couple years ago, we put the search in, and we might look from, I always leave the under number because, hey, if you find that perfect thing that's less, fantastic. But, we'll go about 20, maybe 30,000 over that number in our search because we might be able to negotiate that, a little bit. Now, I might put them into their top of the search, but I usually tell them, we're better off looking below your approval amount, or at least be aware that we really need to focus on the ones under, because we're going to you may end up offering more than their asking price and able to be competitive. But what you offer is really only one. I mean, it's important. There's a lot of factors that go into writing a really competitive buy-sell. And I've been doing that with numbers of people that we just get together and say, we're going to start with patience. We're going to start with calm and a deep breath, because it's such an emotional process. And we're going to be doing this probably a number of times together. I try to keep it down to a few, but it just depends on, the price point and everything. But they're going to have multiple things that they need to be aware of when they're putting together that offer, because price isn't the only thing. And it's not actually, I'll be honest, it's not the most important factor when you start. Oftentimes we get multiple offers. I just put one under contract yesterday that we had listed, and we got 10 offers. So I print all those offers out, and I just go through and start highlighting the main factors. But one thing that will toss you right out off the top, won't even look at your price. If you are not pre-approved, not just pre-qualified, but pre-approved with the letter attached saying that you're pre-approved, and they've gone through, it's not a quick pre-approval. This pre-approval letter has been written saying, yes, we have checked this, and this on this pre-qualification. Then that's in the, okay, let's look into it further pile. But the first thing we'll do, if you don't have that done, you're out. The second thing that is extremely difficult, and I have to tell you, it is probably the most, for me, one of the heart-wrenching things right now is, we have a house we need to sell, but if we put it on the market, and Becky and Diane as listing agents, you do your job right, it's going to sell in a week, and we're going to be homeless. Yeah, that could happen. Well, then we don't want to list till we go find what we want. Okay, well, we go look at what you want and say it's contingent upon your home being listed and sold. I hate to say it, but that pile gets put in the, maybe if we don't have something great over here, but most likely not going to be a high consideration. I mean, it'll at least get put into the spreadsheet. They all get put in the spreadsheet because we present every offer, but that one's not going to get the nice little, hey, these are the, as we go through them, here's some really strong ones. And then the next one is, we got it on the market and we're under contract. We're almost to closing. And by then you should feel, hey, I'm strong. Mine's under contract. But it's, and those do get much stronger. You're under contract, you're almost to close, you have a closing date, you're past inspection, and so your heart just aches. You want to help somebody sell and buy, and it's a real, and then our rental market is so crazy that they say, it used to be, we'll go rent for a little bit. And now it's like, where do your parents live? Who's your best friend? And how much do they really love you?
Whose basement can you borrow?
Yeah, whose basement? Do you have a camper that you really love for a long period of time? And then can you find a place to put it? So,
and you want to think that it probably all has a happy ending, and you've seen it many times. It probably does. But what you just described is just that very tricky, slippery slope, vicious cycle.
It can be.
We're going to sell and we're going to buy. Well, we kind of bought and we've kind of sold. And just, but nothing done yet.
But we've got great agents in Missoula. We really do. And up and down the valley and whatnot. And I do think that now more than ever, it's really important to have a team of professionals on your side. People that understand and can help you. We can do it. We can get it done. And it's, I don't like to make it sound doom and gloom. I just like to say that it's really important that you have a plan in place as you're entering into it all. And having, when I say a team of professionals, you've got your lender that is with you, and you've done your homework with your lender and your financial planning for this to make sure where you can go, what you can afford. Because the other thing is, you've got your budget and you've done everything right. You got your pre-approval letter. You got a great down payment. Everything's just, you're lined up. What we don't want to do is then go buy a house that you can't enjoy because you spent all your money to buy it, and now you don't have the money to be a good homeowner. or maintain it or fix a few things if that's the case because you've stepped. But we're there to help with that. So you've got your lender doing a great job guiding you there on your financial picture. And then you have your real estate agent, whether that's you're listing and selling or just buying. And so they're there for you. They're going to do a great job with our title companies of making sure an understanding of the property you're going into and the covenants and the zoning and the when it comes to title and researching. And so it's just, I think today it's more important than ever. It's always been important. But to have that team in place as you're going into it, not just kind of as you go. I think it's just, really, but it is still, I mean, it's exciting. I've never learned so much in such a short period of time. And I say that with, like, Diane and I talked yesterday. It was just like, wow, who would have thought we would have been studying up on this and learning this side of it? We talked about appraisals. You know, it's right now. So you go in and you make that offer. And you make the offer, say, $20,000 over ask of what it's been listed for. And you are the prevailing party that is, or, you know, the winning party that's going to, you're under contract. You're the one. And you go through, you do your inspection and everything's great. And you move on and you go to financing. And then they go out to do the appraisal. Well, appraisals, you know, for the appraisers aren't done on, there were 10 offers on this home. They have, you know, their own license and binding and ethics where they have to show that there are comparable properties that have been sold. And sometimes they'll call up and say, you know, hey, Diane and Becky, I saw that you sold this house at ABC Street. You listed it at, you know, $500,000 and it sold for $650,000. And we'll go, that's an anomaly. And those sometimes will get tossed out because it was a cash buyer, you know, and there was no appraisal done on the home. Everything around it comped differently, but somebody wanted that one right there and they were in the position financially to pay cash. So there was no appraisal. They can't always use that as a comp. I mean, it's there and it goes in, maybe goes into their thing. But if everything around it that's identical sold and it sold at, say, $575 when it was listed at $5 or $550, and then you got this one that's like, it's the same floor plan, basically. Or the same square footage. They were both updated about the same time. They have about, you know, so they're just really, really close and the adjustments for the differences are small. And you can't come up with $100,000 difference. What are they going to do? And for them, I think it's really, you know, there's so many factors going into what they're doing right now that I really feel for the appraisers. I really do, because it's got to be scary. And those are other thoughts we put in when you're making an offer and saying, okay, I understand you want to offer this and you got all the finances in place. Are you prepared if it does not appraise? What are we going to do? And that's something we talk about in advance on how we're going to deal with that and write that offer.
I'm going to mention some of those good, fine, outstanding team players you were referring to. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. And our guest is Beckie Peterson of Windermere Real Estate. Also want to thank some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring you Missoula Real Estate Today every week on News Talk KGVO. Rob Fleming from Man Mortgage, Miles Link at Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett with MakeItMissoula.com. And back to Beckie Peterson. And how hard would it be to be somebody just starting out as a realtor in this market? What would you tell them? So many realtors, so few listings.
Well, it is. You know, that's something that's discussed. I guess I would say in the industry right now is that there are, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but there are like double, I guess. I'm just pull out just to give you an example of how out of balance it is. There's like twice as many agents in the industry right now or more than there are listings. Right. And then you're trying to bring in the buyer. So yeah, as a new agent, it's got to be, you know, more difficult. But, you know, I think as in anything, if you are passionate, then the number one thing is you have a great broker. We've got, you know, our broker, John Brower, who salt of the earth, and I just love the guy to death. And I talked to him yesterday. Hey, I'm dealing with this, and I'm going to write it like this, and I just want to make sure I've dotted every I and crossed every T. And I said, it seems simple, but in today's, it's all moving kind of fast, it feels like sometimes. So you call him. He's like, yep, I think that's right. That's a good question. Let's call counsel, things like that.
Right.
But that's, I think right now for them, it's, in between those times when you're trying to find that listing or that buyer, you are, if you're serious about it, it's a job all day long. So when you're not doing those things, you're doing the business day to day, but you're learning.
Interest rates, we keep, I don't know if we've been expecting like some great big ball to drop or something, but there hasn't been a lot of fluctuation there, but there has been some, but that's obviously affecting the motivation so many buyers have. Where do you see that? What do you think about all of that, and where we're going in the rest of 2021 with all of that?
Well, what I think really doesn't matter because I'm certainly not an economist or a mortgage lender. But what I can tell you is what I, again,
you can
what
play
I
one.
read,
you can
what
play
I
one
watch.
on Missoula Real Estate Today.
Okay.
It's all right.
I'm not one, but I'm going to play one on the radio.
Yes,
today.
ma'am.
Because I have a face for radio. I have, like I said, been watching, listening to, reading what many of our economists have to say, whether it's the economist, the head economist for Realtor.com or the National Association of Realtors and the MBA and the NAR. Anyways, all of these people together. And basically what it comes down to is they're projecting rates will slowly tick up. But they will still be at historically low. So I think we are probably outside of a one-day blip, if you're lucky to lock. I think you're going to see that they're going to consistently tick up by a little bit from third quarter of this year, which we're just, getting close to.
Yep.
And what they're saying is, if you average out all their projections, is that third quarter probably get up to around 3.35, possibly. Fourth quarter, 3.48. So they're ticking up just a couple of little points. 3.6 by first quarter of next year, 3.68. So some people say, well, what's that going to do to the industry? Well, that's going to slow down refis, people that have been there and refinance. So maybe some of the lenders will get to actually take a breath, because I don't think that those guys have taken a breath.
Right.
Even through the pandemic and everyone saying they were locked up. Well, good thing they were locked up, because they certainly didn't get to have a life outside of it anyways, because of the number of refinances and then just how the repurchase market is going. Yeah. So I think that those will slow down, but even at these rates, and it will change somebody's buying power per se, from 3.35 to 3.68, but it's not like we're in the mid 80s where it was like 22%. Right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's still historically low, or even up at 5 or 6. So they're going to tick up, but it's still going to be great, and it's not really going to be anything, I think, show stopping.
The whole supply and demand thing, getting back to that, Becky. Beckie Peterson with Windermere Real Estate, our guest on Missoula Real Estate Today. Presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate here on News Talk KGVO. On the surface, of course, logical assumption and accurate. I think most people would have as well. Missoula's a desirable place to live, so it's going to be hard to find an affordable house for sale. Supply, demand. But are there any deeper concerns in terms of the whole maybe city regulatory process? I hope that's a tactful enough way to put it, that you look at that and think, well, what could possibly be better on that end, or what might help the whole market situation? Is there anything there that you see?
That's a really tough question.
Sure.
And because I'm not a builder, and I'm not out permitting to build homes, I do know that it has been, of course, a lot of red tape in Missoula, and there's been lots of discussion and frustration, and I know they've worked on it some. I do know that we just, if I'm correct, and I read it, but I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going to kind of very broadly paraphrase, but there was something passed in Helena in regards to, the procedures for getting like developments through and whatnot to kind of help a little bit. But I can't remember it. You could Google. It just happened. But I think that while that is a frustration and has been a frustration, the biggest thing that is actually really hampering or holding back, in addition right now, new construction in houses and new starts, is that, I'll back up. One thing was you go back to 2008, 9, 10, when we started the recession. That, there were a lot of builders during that bubble that had put everything they had into development, into land and everything else. And then when that hit, not only did it hit homeowners, but it wiped some of those guys out to where you didn't have as many of the entire general contractors out there willing to be able to put, that foot forward. Come forward to today, and, you've got some great companies that are out there. They're going, doing what they can. And then you have building materials. And so on top of not enough housing starts being done in the last 10 years to keep up with what is needed to have enough homes in our country, they go to build a home, and let's say they want to do a spec. You're like, well, why are all these specs popping up? Well, right now, I don't think they'll put a spec on the market until it's almost finished because they don't know what it's going to be priced at. The prices on the materials are like, they're a commodity. They're like stock market. They're going up, and I'm not going to say they're coming down. They're just going up. And they could start and bid out a house, and those bids by the companies were given to them. There's such a short window that they'll hold that price for that it's extremely difficult. And I just feel for them because it happened. I remember it when I was, doing real estate back in 2008 to 10. I remember I primarily did a lot of new construction then. And we would, I'd bring the people in, we would sign up, we'd get ready to buy this house. And I remember having the conversation of, okay, if you sign the bid, when you're ready, this particular bid is good for 2 weeks. And then we will have to resubmit on these particular items, which in that case, it was like the framing package and the truss package, because it was the wood at that point in time and the OSB. And that, again, today, you see the memes going around. You see a truck that has 40 sheets of OSB, which is the wood, that makes the floors. And they're like, oh my gosh, there's somebody flaunting their wealth. That's a rich guy. Because it is. It's like, you have a piece of OSB. My gosh, it's like having a piece of gold. So that's really hard on him right now. And I think that until it, is figured out, because there's such a draw on materials, which, today you wake up, there's hurricanes, in the Midwest, and your heart sinks because now that's going to add to it, the rebuilding there. But housing inventory is just, we'll grow here. You always see in the spring, we get more houses on the market. So we're going to see the inventory grow in the second half of this year from where it's at. They say by 43%. And that sounds great, except that we're 200,000 houses short, listings short of what we need. But still, it's gonna come up. And then they say in the first half of 22, it's only going to be up 26%. And then in the second half of 22, it's going to drop down to only 12. And then so they're not real hopeful for our inventory to take a huge growth for a while.
Well, now more than ever, buyers, sellers, you want a professional realtor that really, really knows the market, been at it a long time, and can help you along the entire way. I think a couple good examples of that are Diane Beck with Windermere Real Estate, and my guest today on Missoula Real Estate Today, Beckie Peterson at Windermere Real Estate. And lovely seeing you as always.
Thank you. It was fun. I'm going to take a deep breath and just go do some more homework.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.